What's up, y'all? How do you like that speed on that? You can hide a lot of errors, though, the quicker you go playing guitar. Anyway, fun though. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is episode 176 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The title of this episode is actually Always Given Freely. Take the word actually off of there, though. The title is only Always Given Freely. Let's talk about this because, there's 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company. If I talk about the other 3 in here where I do, then there you go, okay? Yeah, but this is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. That's how I'm going to say that for right now, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. We're all human beings placed on this rock in space. Okay. Designed by God, though, without being too silly about it. But I say that. We're just a human being that's just actually a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, in case you didn't know. On the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, we allow the human body to work. We discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth, right? But here, we just talk about God as he says that he is, right? Jesus Christ designed us in his image. That's our company name, if you add 2 more words. In the Image Clothing Company. Designed in the image of God. There's truth to life, which is great. That's all we need. And so what I'm going to discuss in this here episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, is how God gives freely. And, there's this idea of paying for things. It's an idea, it's a concept. We talk about money, and there's times and places for money, for sure. There's a structure to society, and that's a good thing to have. And we play into it as members of the society, and that's good. Definitely, that there are good things that come from money. People say money is the root of all evil, but people also can do a lot of great things with money. It's just a tool. We just need to see it as it is. And there's episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Money Hungry. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Power and Poverty. I got cut off on that one because the storage space ran out. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Why Is Your House So Big? And I've got an idea of an episode typed in my little device here that I'm using to film this, titled Seeking Money for Comfort. Okay, maybe one day that'll be filmed by me or somebody at the team under In the Image Clothing Company. But yeah, let's talk about this because Always Given Freely. That's the title. This is the understanding that I'm going to be uncovering or unpacking throughout this is God gives freely. We live in a world where we've got things that God doesn't need to be even focused on. God's not governed by time. God is not governed by any kind of monetary value of anything we could call money. And money just changes at all times that it does anyway. There's really no such thing as money. It's a representation of value. Whatever we place value on at a time, we call that a monetary measurement. It's either paper or it's actual physical minerals out of the earth, or now it's electronic things in ways, and that doesn't even exist. Like, truly, legitimately, it's not even a tangible thing. But there's, free things that are given to us. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Freedom. And, we misunderstand freedom a lot of the time, and that's not actually what we're seeking. If we were to get it, true actual freedom, we'd have a lot of chaos, and then nobody would be free because God is the God of paradoxes, and he's backward, and his laws are perfect. He's a God of order. But in order to have money, we have to have an earth. And God was there before the earth was because he designed the earth and all its inhabitants, including you and I. Ah, shoot. Already we're so real into this, 5 minutes in, give or take. No, let's really discuss this idea of always given freely because, well, we are already discussing it, and we are already free because we were bought with the ultimate price. God's life, truly. Jesus Christ died for us after creating us so that we could be free from sin, even though we still sin. This is what I mean. It's a paradoxical thing, meaning it's backward. It doesn't quite make sense, but it makes perfect sense. God always gives freely. He gives his love freely. He gives his grace freely. He gives his understandings freely, and he gives freely in all ways to those that serve him. He'll just pour out blessings upon them. And those blessings don't always look like physical, tangible possessions or monetary value things like money, okay? But God gives things to us freely. And sometimes those blessings and those things he gives us don't come until after this life. And that's interesting to a lot of people because, like I say, no opinion of mine, but the whole point of life is to get closer to Jesus Christ. Just like how there's no opinion of mine that we all were created by somebody, because I didn't create myself, no matter if I wanted to take credit for it or not. That's just not the truth. I came from somewhere else. God, Jesus Christ, designed all of us. And he gives freely to those that do all they can to do all they can. I like to add another step in there, because that's the case, to serve him. And that's the thing with God is he gives, and he gives regardless of what we could pay him for, anything he could give us. Because like the episode titled, something along the lines of, what could I do for God? Or maybe, what could I really do? It's something like that. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We really, in the grand scheme of things, can't do anything for God. He's almighty. He doesn't need us to do anything for him to do everything. He wouldn't have to break a sweat to literally accomplish everything in an instant, because he is already doing that. He's orchestrating all things. His course is one eternal round. He's ever-present, almighty, and he is all things. The great I am. So what could we really do for God that could matter? Well, definitely not pay him for anything. And so he gives us things freely because no matter if we had all the money in the world, he created the world and the possibility for it to have money. Interesting. So God gives freely, and he gives abundantly, and he gives pouring out blessings until they overflow. Fills our cup until it runneth over, if you will. These are scriptures, right? I paraphrase things, but I also say scriptures word for word. Where I do, I just kind of like drop them in. Just often, but on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, more often than in other places. Okay? That's what we do here. We discuss God. And we do it imperfectly. I'm doing it imperfectly right now, but I'm doing it. There's a lot of things in life where we have to pay a lot to get a little. And we can't actually really pay God anything, and he gives us all things. He gives us life, which is all that we could ever have, because we have this life, and then in this life, we're able to maybe try to acquire things. But we were given this life first, freely. But not really, because we were bought with a price. Kind of. When I say we were kind of bought with a price, we were certainly bought with a price, but really what was bought was the ability for us to be redeemed from our sins and mistakes and fallen ways. When we fall away from the things that are good, we run towards those things that are not good, that only damage us. Well, how do we come back? Is God paid the price and died as the ultimate sacrifice to atone for our problems that we cause. Atone is like the word at one, right? At one meant the atonement of Jesus Christ. When he died, he brought all things to one. He paid the price of all so that there's nothing left to pay. He brought it down to equal, brought it down to zero, brought it down to nothing. And now we're given everything freely because he went and died in our place. So God gives us free things, free love. He freely gives us his Spirit to dwell with us all the time, and we don't have to pay for like a, kind of like a bedside nurse, kind of like a constant friend. That's what it's called, right? The constant companion of the Holy Spirit of God. A comforter that, we could just kind of pay somebody to comfort us through things. Well, the second comforter is what the Spirit of God is called. And we don't have to pay for it because God paid for it so that God could freely give it to us. Paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. The backward good news of our one and only living God. The creator of all things, whether you know him or not. He's your Father in heaven, who knows how to give good gifts perfectly, and actually not only perfectly give good gifts, but give perfect gifts freely to all those who do all that they can to serve him. All things work together for the good of those that serve God. We're just given things. When we give out good things, what goes around comes around, like a merry-go. You get married and go off and do something crazy, God will freely forgive you, no matter what you did. They could be considered crazy. There's this idea of just being given free things, though. And it's kind of like a trap in a worldly lens. People are offering you free stuff, and why would it be free? Well, because we'll hand you this free thing, so hopefully you'll come pay us for other things that are bigger and better than this. But God gives us the biggest and best for free because he gives us himself. Or if we want to see it like this, he gave us his only begotten Son. The only perfect one out of all of us, which is God. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled The Only Begotten. And I discussed how that works. God gave us a way to understand who he is through having a Son who's perfect. But the only perfect being is God. And God's Son, Jesus Christ, is the one who created all things. But in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth and all things that in them are. There's only one God, which is actually a title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. One God. But he manifests himself in ways that we can understand because we're human beings who don't understand things all that well. If we're trying to understand things that are bigger than us. So, God gives freely, and he does that, always. In the Image Clothing Company, one of the big things we'll always do is give a lot of free information. I call it the gift of video, rather than just saying we make videos. We make videos. But it's a gift to document things that last forever. It's something that's, new, relatively. People couldn't do this in the past. Before there was video recording that could happen. We have a lot of free videos and a lot of free information in our free videos about the anatomy of the human body, which we discuss in depth, and the only way the human body could ever work, just being a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space with neutrals in every functionality. Neutral to rotations and neutral to extension versus contraction of joints. A center line to the human body on Earth's gravity that has a center line that it pulls down on everything with. Earth's gravity does. We always will be giving this free information, always. In the ways that we do, always. It will be free. Yeah. Always given freely. Free modifications in clothing. The only thing placed on our bodies, the only fix to human beings' physical problems because, well, God designed the body to work. Designed to work, an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Allowing the body to work. The slogan on the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, and also an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We didn't design it, we can't decide it. An episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and there are more as well in our 176 as of this one, just about the functionality of the human body, at least, with the focus in the episodes being that. And yeah, we will always have things that will be given freely. Information, free modifications, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. Those are 3 of some of the last few episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast that I have filmed from today's date back. Yeah, right around this one. I think all 3 of those, at least just about, are all in the 170s of numbers, right? And so these are things that we will always give freely because, well, they're time-stamped and numbered in the Image Clothing Company podcast episode order. And this podcast will always be free to view and listen to, and or just listen to, right? It's in 2 forms, the way that we make it, at least up until right now. So anyway, yeah, I mean, we have to do all that we can, because this is the big thing is, as I've said, having this company be seriously, legitimately in the name of God, right? In the Image Clothing Company, the whole focus is on God, Jesus Christ himself. I can never possibly take credit for any information that's just truth, because truth is just truth. When I'm just discussing the human body that God designed, the only thing I can take credit for is the understanding that I have about it. But the only way that I can understand anything about it is because God made it. So we can never train the human being. It's physically impossible. It only can function the way it functions, as if it was never altered by anything. And we talk about the right-handed world we're all in. 85% of the population of human beings are right-handed, give or take. And the chronic patternings and scar tissue we get into, we get out of those, by the way. Shoelaces, drawstrings, oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing, these things placed onto the body. Under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, this is what we do, is get out of the patternings that get caused in the body. Deep imbalances that get created in the musculature and the, tendons, the bones, the ligaments, the fascia, and, the structure of our human flesh, truly, right? But we can never take credit for these things, really. How to allow the body to work, well, yeah, there's a lot of information we know that others don't, but it's not even our information. It's just the truth, and we're just relaying truth. And so a lot of this stuff will be things we will always give freely because we kind of have to. If we're doing all that we can to align this with how God would have us structure this, which me being the founder in this for life, Evan Strong is my name, of In the Image Clothing Company, that's how we need to approach this. And I'm saying it, and I'm the one that has the say over this company as far as human beings go, right? And this is just kind of like, making it known. This is how it will always be. This is how it has to be. We're imperfect, and we like to take credit for things, but we need to be doing all that we can always to have things be always given freely. Like this episode's title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, 176, right, is the number. So, we will always have information on In the Image Clothing Company poodles as well, where we let dogs stay natural, same thing as allowing the body to work for the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. But we specialize in purebred standard poodles, and we do a lot, and the same intent behind the human body we approach dogs with and give information that applies to all dogs, right? And so a lot of that will always just be given freely under the gift of video. Just documenting us discussing things and visually showing things, giving context on things and the understandings that we know. On letting dogs stay natural, there's so much of this will always be just freely given because we're just relaying truth in these instances, we couldn't possibly harbor it because we couldn't possibly take credit for it because it's not our information and we are saying the same things anybody else could be saying, but we're just one of the people doing it, right? Just relaying truth. And truth is always given freely. It's always there. Because that's another name for God, is the truth. Okay? The way, the truth, and the life. Jesus Christ. He's got a lot of names. The creator of all things is one of them. So yeah, we have to, and we will always have at least a lot of things that we will always give freely. And then, we'll always have good products. Human being clothing and dog products, staying centered, fitting correct, in all the ways that we can, being made from 100% natural materials, because the goal is natural under all four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms within the functioning of the human body and dogs, right? So when we talk about eating, sleeping, standing, walking, breathing, sitting, hydration, all the things we talk about for human beings and dogs, and all this information that we have, with as much of it that we'll always give free as will always be free, that's kind of the context I'm giving here. Is it's kind of obvious up until today's date, if you know who we are and what we do, that we have free information. But it's not like one day down the road we'll just make it so this information that we've been giving up until now isn't available unless you pay for it. We might have certain things that we charge for, we have events here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, where we're based, and always will be, as In The Image Clothing Company. But, where things are paid for, sure. Times and places, and then products, we're not just going to only give free products. We need to make income, because like I said at the beginning, we do live in a world that is structured by a society that works together by, paying for things as one of the things, right? And earning money as a way to then be able to pay for things. And this is great. It's how it works as a human being. Kind of. It doesn't work all that well. But this is how things are structured, and that's the point of making products, is selling them. So that we have good things that we don't have to modify, because, again, free. Always giving and given freely will be free modifications. That hits me hard, because that's the biggest thing. Like I've said it recently, and it's still the case up until today's date, over a year into In The Image Clothing Company, me as the founder. The way that I've been able to get out of the chronic patterning and scar tissue, and you can just see this visually through the gift of video happen in my own personal body, is just from the same free modifications that I show in clothing freely, right? Free modifications that I freely give, okay? Always given freely. They will be going forth. That's like a future tense, if you will, right? Way of explaining that. We'll always have free modifications. We'll always have the information available, is what I mean. The same things that we're just trying to get to when we have products in The Image Clothing Company clothing. That's the only reason we would sell it. It's just so there's something we can purchase, myself as well, and not have to do modifications to it. I mean, this shirt right now, I've taken a tag out of the rear of the collar. I've done the dreaded collar seam modification under In The Image Clothing Company to it. I fold the shirt tail up so that grippy double stitch weave pattern that goes around the shirt tail isn't gripping on my hips and pulling on my shoulders, and just all the little things that you see me doing and that we discuss and talk about is affecting the body. We'll always have these things be freely shown on how to modify things that just need modification, because there's only one way the human body could work, and we're placing clothing onto it. Clothing's amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. It's commanded by God to be modest, meaning cover up our bodies in the ways that he sets the parameters on, But we'll always have good things be given freely here, yeah. Oh, shoot. I am a year plus into In The Image Clothing Company. I haven't made a dime. Not only have I not made a dime, I haven't made a nickel. And even less than that, I haven't made 4, 3, 2, or 1 even single cent of currency, 1 penny, not one, on what I've done through In The Image Clothing Company, directly because of and from In The Image Clothing Company. I have not, and I didn't expect to, and I don't expect to as of right now. That's not the point. I'm not in this for money, but we will be making money from this, and in order to have our building here, our physical actual building in the state of Utah, the United States of America, and to have our team be people who will come to us and we can compensate. I mean, we would have people who would be willing to volunteer because of what we do, because of who we are, and the real intent of behind this. It's not about fashion. It's not about sales. It's really about a lot of depth. Again, if you know what we really do, you know what we really do, as in the Image Clothing Company. We'd be able to have people that would just volunteer, and we'd have a team through that. But no, we'll pay our team, okay? And I'll get paid. And then doing all of our events, it'll cost money to be able to do these things. And, having income come in through things that we do charge for, products, and whatever else, certain events that maybe we would charge for in ways, because yes, and I'll say the third yes, because we do a lot, yeah. Yes, we do. So I kind of want to make it like this distinction where it'll be sort of intertwined, because there are certain things we have to kind of pay for in a sense in life, and even pay God for, kind of. He gives freely a lot to us, but also we have to pay God in ways. Like giving God our time. We only have so much time, and we're essentially paying with our time when we're spending time with God. When we're doing things that He wants us to do rather than trying to do things that we want. Do things that hurt us, like saying, I'm sorry, which is really what repenting is, right? Repentance. I think that's episode number 3. Clear back, to the beginning of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Yeah, but repenting, I mean, that's us paying. That's us doing something we don't want to do, and it kind of takes stuff out of us. Like, God, really? I gotta say I'm sorry? Oh, my heavens. And repenting to God, that's like a payment on our end, because it's hard for us to do. We do have to pay God for things in ways, but never with money. because God's outside of money, but God is not outside of order. He's the God of order. He's the God of doing everything correct. And there's things He does expect us to, in a sense, pay Him for. So that's what I'm saying, is I'm making this kind of distinction on the fact that there is two sides. And I like that phrasing, the fact, because there's opposition in all things. There's only day because there's night. There's only, if we're talking about money, there's only poor if there's rich. Do you see what I mean? There's only two sides to everything. And there is two sides to everything. Always. Opposition. Okay, there's two sides to the center line of the human body on Earth's center of gravity. Do you see what I mean? There's two sides, internal rotation and external rotation to the body and its functionality, right? We discussed this in depth on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, and it's big. I've made a couple videos today. I mean, we've got a lot that we have up until today's date alone, and it's all free as of now. I mean, that's all that we have. That's all that we are. As of today's date, is videos. And you can incorporate music with that, because that's how I record the music. Up until now, that's how it's all been recorded on In the Image Clothing Company Music. Another one of our fourths, where a lot of what gets shown is the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the neutral, wrist, neutral, natural, and normal, right? And the rounding in our hands. I call them hand arches that correlate with the rounding in our feet. We just discussed this, but I make a lot of music. I sing, I play guitar, rhythm and poetry, metronome madness, freestyling. A lot of good stuff gets had on In the Image Clothing Company Music around the gospel of Jesus Christ is what it's always geared. So here's the big point. There's two sides, right? There's always two sides. And we'll always give free information because there's always all of these videos that I'm saying, right? Any video that ever lives on under In The Image Clothing Company, it's just got free information in it. But then at the same time, we will have things that we most certainly will be charging money for as well. Products, specific events, things that you can involve yourself with, which some of those are free as well, right? That's what I'm saying is there's two sides to things. So this is how God works, though, like I'm discussing the correlation, because God always gives freely. Love, grace, his presence in our lives. But there's things that we actually have to pay him for, like I mentioned, in ways as well, right? Because there's just everything or there's nothing. And there's opposites or there's neither side. And if there's something free, then there has to be something that's bound, right? And if we talk about contracts in the legal system or monetary value, like money, like you write a contract to pay something back that you owe money-wise, you are bound under contract. And so the only way that there could be freedom is if there's the possibility for there to be bondage. Okay? So the way that God can always give freely is because we always have the opportunity to be in bondage. See what I mean? There's just two sides to everything. So good discussion, good explanation. I love this. I think that's where we'll leave this. That was very, very swiftly and smoothly laid out. I mean, I'm the one that said it, but it's shocking to me, right? I go into these and I don't sit here beforehand and like write out how I'm going to structure the whole episode. And, you know, like I say and like I do, I just work best freestyled, you know, kind of under pressure, truly, you know, but like in the instant when I go up to something and do it. But that's what God says, you know. We don't need to know beforehand what we're going to do or say, but just trust that the Spirit of God will lead us and do all that we can to pray through everything. And that's what I do, is do all that I can to pray through everything, right? It's a commandment, actually, to pray continuously without ceasing. Something we could never actually live up to, but we can never actually live up to any of the commandments perfectly. We're just imperfect. And so that's the whole thing about God always giving his grace freely to not just make up the distance, but you know, basically do everything, and we just kind of try a little bit. It's not like we get almost there and he makes up the very last little bit, but we do our little bit, which is all that we could possibly do. And then he does the rest, which is almost everything, you know, because he could do it all without us anyway. So there you go. I discussed each of the four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. You know, we talked about the title, always given freely. Let's talk about where clothing sits. You know, I'll just do it if and where I do. Things have changed, and yeah, that's good. As far as the way that I have been structuring things, and that's not my choice, but like I was just saying, God, right? He decides. And so here's the thing. Clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location. If you're a man or a woman, if you're tall or short, if you're skinny or fat, if you're from any part of the earth, any age or any time period to ever be, no matter what or who you are, if you are a human being, then that's what and who you are, a son or daughter of God, designed in the image of Jesus Christ. Our bodies could only ever work one way, so our pants have to be entirely above our hips, slightly higher in the front than the rear, sitting there at our natural waist. That's how we just keep our bodies as if they were unaltered while wearing pants. The tops that we wear have seams on top of our shoulders. They need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. Our shoulders only ever work behind our head. It's where they mechanically connect to the body through the musculature. It's where the bones would naturally sit, is in that position, like the scapulas. Today I made a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, kind of furthering the discussion that is in the other video titled The Natural Scapula Position. But this one today is titled The Space Between the Shoulder Blades. Shoulder blades and scapulas is the same thing, just, two different names for those big bones on our upper backs. But with our shoulder seams sitting where I said on the top, actually behind the peak of our shoulders, our edge seams of our tops need to be right at the edges of our shoulders, as close as we can get to the functionality of the edge of our shoulder joint, because it's a joint of material and body parts. Okay? Two things we have as prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body. In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique. We don't own it. We never could. It's just a rope. It's just a pattern to weave it in. That's the only way the human feet are shaped. Okay? And then we tie shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body. That's just included with the technique on both sides of the body. Okay? Feet arches grip inward, opposing the center line of the human being, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. There you go. Secondly, our other prerequisite under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body is removing all tags from clothing. One of those things that didn't even exist decades ago as of today's date. They're either just causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, or they're just not allowing musculature to activate. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. It's all there. It's all got a role to play. No compensation can be had. And we can't drag around dead weight. Okay, there you go. There you go. And there you go. So thank you. That's where we'll leave this. Poodle Parade events. Check them out. Purebred poodles or poodle mixes of any size here in the state of Utah, but we do a lot through poodles. Stick around for the poodles. It'll be really, really big. More ways than just dogs as pets, We've got a lot of context up until today's date talking about a lot of what is to come and what the reason truly, in addition to, the reasons that you know from this episode alone of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, is that we actually have all that we do through dogs. It's a big thing in many, many, many big ways. And you'll see. Okay, so thank you. Today's the 3rd. It is of November 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, in this for life. Okay. Big things to come. Okay. Big things already here. I'm not just saying like one day we'll be big. We're already big. We've been big since the founding, because anything we do that's universal and that's true, it's, what we do here is life changing, and that's why we're here. So don't take it lightly. We talk about a lot of really small things, okay, like the physical size of the modifications, little tiny snips in clothing that will legitimately change your entire life. Don't believe me, but truly, okay. We do a lot of cool things here, bro, so check it out. Thank you. Goodbye. I'm excited, personally, just for a little bit of context. You'll see. The state of Utah here, it's as I've said, we live up Utah, as in The Image Clothing Company, so much in nature, with the goal being natural, and so much of that will come through dogs. On our end of things, specifically purebred standard poodles. And so maybe I'll play a little bit of guitar before I cut it. I was about to cut it right there, but we're keeping on the 5th fret of little Red the guitar here. I think there's a beautiful thing to the simplicity of some of the chords that I play often. I usually do stick around some pretty, some really actually simple chords, and it allows you to do a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So, stick around for the poodles, man, because my heart's in it, Big time. And we've got videos where I've filmed, at the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter here in Utah County, Utah, the state, the state of Utah, man, the state of Utah. I want to hit that so hard because so much of what we do is allowing people to just, yeah, shoot. We do so much in nature, okay? And Utah, the state of Utah, the state of Utah, the state of Utah. I mean, you'll see, man. Freely given, always given freely. I mean, I think a lot of what we can do is always, be giving people the ability to see some things they just would never see, nature-wise through the gift of video because of what we do here in Utah. And what I mean by I think we'll always be able to, that's what we'll do, but that's one of the big things too, just what we'll be giving people is, insights to things they'd never otherwise see just through what we do, and just the gift of being able to document it, just documentation, a record-keeping people, within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I am a member of. We talk about being a record-keeping people. Your life as a journal, an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is that's one of them. Yeah, so yeah, just freely giving people experiences vicariously in ways where that's good, because I know a lot of the time we really actually get more by, in the way of, viewing things through video, vicariously living through somebody else's experience than if we were to actually have that experience. There's a lot of things that I love to watch that other people have filmed, but I wouldn't actually want to do it myself, but I really love being able to watch it happen, and so that's a gift. I watch these shows on television. Okay, TV, as the kids say. It's like, how old are you, bro? No, I do though. I watch these television shows where there's so much that I love to be able to see, and it's freely given to me, whether I have to pay for the TV streaming service, or, in this instance, actually what, I'm able to use somebody else's that they're paying for. But even however it comes to being, there's a lot that, at least in a way, is freely given to me to be able to see and experience. And I love that, I mean, I've talked about growing up how much I used to watch people's experiences, daily vlogs and certain people. I've mentioned Roman Atwood and Ryan Higa, these people who've just made so many videos. I didn't have to pay anything to watch them. They gave these videos to the whole earth for free. And what they really gave me through these videos, and other people like these people, that I watched it with the similar intent behind why I was watching their videos, is that they freely gave me a friend. kind of vicariously through just watching them and their friends, or just watching them alone, or watching them with their family. And these are things that we are freely given by people, and that we will always be freely giving as in the Image Clothing Company, because I know that a lot of what we do is stuff that people not only will like, and that is the case, but also things that people need, because anytime that we do just speak universal truth, everybody needs that always. And we will always be giving free information on truth. We'll never be perfect at relaying truth, because no human being ever possibly could be perfect at doing so. But I mean, that's the point. Well, we're never going to charge for you to be able to hear and watch and hear, if you choose to watch it in visual plus audio, in the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes. I mean, we will never charge for that. I mean, there's no way, right? That would be something that we would do personally, and I'm the one saying it. I'm the one filming them up until now. I'm the only one that has, right? 176 times as of this one. So there's a lot that we will always give freely, because it's what I said. We're almost this is the whole paradoxical part of it. We're almost bound to. Wow, that's even different phrasing, as in bound to meaning going to, but we're almost tied in to having to. We're almost forced to give free information. Again, it's just the paradox, because of the fact that it's God's truth where it is. That's really what we try to focus all that we do around anyway. So yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? Under In the Image Clothing Company. So it's kind of a thing that we have to do. Yeah. Do all that we can to always have at least quite a few free things that we do for everybody, in a good way, because that's really what we do here. We're a company, we're a community, very intentionally not worded as a business. We're here to bring people together, and give people a lot of free experiences, even if that's the experience of laughter or joy, or the experience of deepening their understanding through our videos, or hearing what we discuss. So anyway, there's a lot of what we do and always will that's free. So in the Image Clothing Company, brother, thank you. Goodbye. I'm going to say it so clear, please. If you'd like, don't do it for me. You don't have to by any means. But if you want to, stick around for the poodles. And really what that phrase means when I say it is, it's more me saying there's so much to come in the avenue of what we will always be doing through poodles. I'm not even really telling people to stick around unless you'd like to. But that's just kind of how I word it. And that's really what I am saying is, just know how much will come. I wouldn't be saying it so much if the okay. I don't even need to explain it more than I have, but I do where I do, and maybe I do need to. That's what I am doing. So it's explaining it. Just stick around for the poodles, because dogs give so much free love. Stick around for the poodles. Thank you. Goodbye. I can't cut it yet. I feel like I want to just cut this out, man. Stick around for those poodles, man. Free information in all the ways. It takes it out of me in a good way. That's what I mean. We talk about getting drained when we're like pouring out spiritual things in a good way. Like, having God work through us. And sometimes that's a draining thing, because that means big things are happening. That's not a bad thing that it's draining, because it's proper, it's right, it's intentional. There's the reasons that we're doing these things, and they're the biggest things that we could be doing. Speaking truth, giving free information, helping people in the ways that we do. And me just saying, as simple as it is, stick around for the poodles, that in itself is me doing something so big, because it's giving a lot of awareness for what's to come. And when we have more context than we do as of today's date on what really the focus and reason for the poodles and In the Image Clothing Company with that whole fourth of us, In the Image Clothing Company poodles. I mean, you'll see why I've been saying it so much. It's one of those things that I can't even explain much deeper than I just do until it happens, because there's a lot of it that I don't fully even know yet. I was gonna say more, like, to try to explain that, but that's just that's just the case. I mean, there's just a lot that I don't know yet, but I'm acting in the moments when I'm told to act. I'm working in the moments when I'm told to work by God. So it's one of those things where, regardless of any kind of desire I could have out of my own doings, it's God prompting me every time that I say it, like, make sure to say it, stick around for the poodles. It's kind of just this, like, this slight little nudge to, an introduction of what's to come, because once it's here, man, it's something that they couldn't possibly need an explanation on what we're really doing through this and why. Even if you're not a dog person. Yeah. Man. Okay. I am in this for life. So are the dogs. So is that avenue and aspect and approach of what we are here, as in the Image Clothing Company. The dogs, okay? On our end of things, purebred standard poodles. I personally couldn't even fully explain to you the same things that I just can't personally explain to myself, right? I as of yet is what I mean. So, but I said it before we ever had any of this. I think I'll make a clothing company, and it just feels right. It's like God's kind of just having me do it. We're gonna do some big things, and I was saying a lot of what we would be doing that we later started doing. We talked about having podcasts before we ever had this. Months before In the Image Clothing Company podcast had its first episode. And I talked about a lot of things that we have now been doing for months before we ever started doing them, and I didn't even know how they would look, and now we're like seasoned in it, if you will. We've done it many times by now, a lot of these things that we just do, as in the Image Clothing Company. And that's how the poodles are. It's one of those things where I just know what's coming without really knowing how to even know what's coming, I mean, and a lot of it is the testament, and this is what I say and how I word it, because it's the truth of God speaking through us and doing things through us, and God revealing us things. Yeah, man, I mean, God reveals things to us that haven't come yet, to the degree that we can understand, to a degree, what will be coming. And then it comes, and then we have that, like, holy cow, you really did it. We look to God like, okay, and he thanks us for acting when we didn't have the full picture. And then we thank him for getting the full picture after he told us how to start taking action before it happened. Do you see how this works on all the ends? All things work together for the good of those that serve God. God gives freely to those that do all they can to serve him. And that's what I'm doing in this, and that's what I mean when I say I haven't made any kind of money off of any of this that I've done. It's been over a year. It's been over, 800 probably videos. I mean, at least. Yeah, certainly, under In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, I mean, and not just like, a few minute long videos, but a lot of them are hours or multiple hours long, I mean, they're all so intentional. Oh, well, I mean, most all of them, that's the point, is that's why we make anything, is if there's a real purpose and point behind it, and ideally the videos we make and any content we ever put out could last forever, so anyway, I mean, God gives us free things. He gives freely to us, and all that he's going to give me through, the way that I benefit personally from what I'm able to do with all these beautiful poodles and all the dogs we're able to help as well, that aren't our own specific standard poodles. It's going to be so fulfilling to me, and that's what he freely gives us is fulfillment and wholeness, satisfaction and lasting joy. These are the things that God freely gives us, but in order to receive things from God, we don't approach him the way that we approach the world. By no means, because he works differently. His ways are different. He's higher and holier. He's perfect. His ways are not our ways, and his ways are not the ways of the world. We say the natural man is an enemy to God, and has been since the fall of Adam, and will be forever and ever, unless he entices himself or unless he yields to the enticings of the Holy Spirit of God. That's slightly paraphrased, but in the Book of Mormon, and I've referenced that scripture from there before. That's what it says. And it's funny because if we talk, talk about deep conviction. Hit me, just like rooted in the soul right now. What God's having me film this episode for. I thought I was trying to cut it, when I was trying to cut it earlier. God will, he works. We are the natural man as human beings, men and women, mankind, right? We're commanded to overcome the natural man in all the ways that we can and be as God is, which is perfect. Just meaning, like I say, getting closer to God, to Jesus Christ himself in this life. That's the point. And what we have is the natural man, or the way that human beings would naturally do things. And the opposite of us is God, in a sense, truly. That's how we're an enemy to God, because we're the opposite of him, but we're also his legitimate, literal offspring, sons and daughters, right? This is hitting me so big, so deeply, so hard, so great, in the best way. God works in ways that are unnatural. God works in ways that are supernatural. Okay? I'm going to be heading down to St. George, Utah for 2 weeks. As long as nothing changes that's planned so far, right? And I'll do what I do down there for In the Image Clothing Company, and then I'll be back here in Utah County, at least for a time. I'll say this without making any definitive, claims that don't end up coming to pass, but I've been prompted to say this by God. I made an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast a week ago, give or take, from today's date. In this shirt that's just right over here, I'm looking at it in this room that I'm in, and on it says Moab, Utah, which is a town in Utah, more south than I am here in Utah County. And what I said in the video was what I've said often, Utah, where we're based, as in the Image Clothing Company. But I read this shirt. I said, like it says here on my shirt, Moab, Utah, where we're based, as in the Image Clothing Company. And it hit me really hard. And after I said it, after I filmed the episode, I was reflecting, and I was like, God, you're saying something to me in this. And this is what I'm saying with, I don't want to make any definitive anything as of right now. But there's certain things that I have said that we will almost certainly be doing down the road. And I've kind of foreshadowed some things with certain companies, for example, and with, certain things to come that I'm saying because God promised me to, and I am not trying to predict the future or like prophesy out of my own being, because that's not my place to do. But I want to make it very clear how hard it hit me really just, more southern, warmer part of Utah. It gets very snowy and cold here in this more central to northern part of Utah, where Utah County is, right, in the state of Utah. Um, that's where I am currently and have been, and the whole time up until today's date, through In the Image Clothing Company, and my whole life. Where I've actually been living is in Utah County. The county is made up of multiple towns here in Utah. There's multiple counties in the state of Utah. So anyway, southern Utah, I don't know for certain exactly what and how, and I'm just not trying to make some kind of claim or like I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to prophesy, but I will say I've been really prompted by God to address this under a documented episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The past few days, really, since I said it in that episode I referenced, right? And I don't know which one it is as of right now. Whichever one I'm wearing that Moab, Utah shirt in before today's date. That's the only time I've worn that in an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast up until today's date is that one I'm referencing. So I don't know if it's Moab, Utah for sure. I don't know St. George, Utah for sure. I don't know if it's just the area down there, and I don't know what all this means, but I do know we will have a building one day, a physical building for In the Image Clothing Company. And I've discussed this and given context where I have before today's date. So I'm not trying to prophesy. I just want to be very clear. I'm not... that's not what I'm here to do like that. Okay, I mean, people are given the gift of prophecy. I've been given the gift of, we could call it tongues, right? But the gift of being able to speak so well is one of the many gifts that God has given me personally, deeply. It's something that's very distinctly unique to me, given very directly and catered to me in the ways that I do what I do through speaking and through words and through delivering information, through music, which is speaking in itself, which rhythm and poetry is a lot of what I do when it comes to music. So I do know I needed to address it the way that I did here. So I love it down there. It's a lot warmer throughout the year, even though it's only a few hours south driving, in a car from Utah County, but just more southern Utah. There are locations down there that basically don't get any snow, or very, very little if they do, and stay relatively warm year round. So what we do with the poodles and what that's one of the biggest parts and points is what we're going to be doing with the poodles, poodle parade events. And I'm not going to miss the snow if I was never in it again. But I'm not leaving Utah either. And I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, in this for life. So, okay. This is what I'm saying is God said just kind of discuss it, give it the attention that I felt that I needed to when I said what I did there. Because no, not currently, as of me saying this right now on today's date, and up until now we haven't been, based in Moab, Utah, or southern Utah, but I do think we will be, and I'm very careful with what I say. I'm very I'm very very careful with my words, and especially under a documented numbered episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast that will be here forever. And I'm saying this in this. Okay, that's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm saying it the way that I am, is because I got so prompted by God. And I want to say it like this. It's not what I want, but I need to. God is pushing me. Almost certainly we will be based in the south end of Utah. Okay, like where we actually put our roots down, build our physical building, as In the Image Clothing Company, where our products will be shipped out from, where our team will be, where the poodles can be housed, and where I will be living, and the team will be living in fairly close proximity. Okay, I wouldn't be saying this, and I'm not saying this out of some kind of high or hyped expectation or hope. Well, expectation is one thing, yeah. Okay, that's a fine word to use, but it's not a hope or desire out of my own doings. You can tell how rooted in this I am, and calm and centered and grounded within this. It's been probably around a week, maybe a week at least, give or take, though, since that episode where it hit me. God said, yeah, mention this, speak this. And so it's kind of just like, you've said it, documented, and go from there. And one of these things, God freely gives us some understandings of things that we don't really understand. That doesn't really make sense, but that's really how it is. And that's why I'm saying it the way that I am, is I love it down there. Beautiful. A lot of the environment is red, red rock, a lot of mountains, dry desert, very warm in the warmest parts of the year, and then relatively warm still in the coldest parts of the year in some of the locations down there in southern Utah. So I would not be saying this like this, and it's not me saying it, and hear that correct, but it's not. I want that to be clear, but also I don't know exactly what all this means. Okay, out of exactly what it will look like, and time periods, and how. Okay, but my heart's in it. I've said that a lot, My heart's in it with the poodles. My heart's in it with the state of Utah. My heart's in it with the warmth. I love the heat. I love the desert. And I love the environment down there in southern Utah. Yeah. And I'll be down there for 2 weeks. Again, as long as plans don't change. And then, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm going to be going back for permanence, to really build, base camp, if you will, but for life. And I would not be saying this. You know me if you know me, and if you don't really know me all that well, depending on, if you do or not. We've got, 176 episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, just hundreds of hours of me just speaking, thousands of hours maybe. I don't know. I haven't calculated it, as of right now, but just meaning, you know how I am. If you want to, you can know how I approach discussing things, and I am, usually very particular about the words that I say, because the power of the word, the word of God, and God is the word. That's another name for him. So I love it. Okay, southern Utah, Moab, St. George, they're in kind of similar areas, sort of. I mean, they're relatively similar, but just, I don't know. That's what I mean is both of those towns have come up in being spoken to by God to me. And, maybe I'll understand more throughout or after these 2 weeks of being down there, as long as that happens, right? I'm trying to be really careful with my words while not holding back what really needs to be said either, out of fear of sounding like I'm prophesying and then something doesn't happen the way that I thought it should, So you see what I mean? So thank you, God, truly. And thank you, whoever is here, for being here, because we're here for a reason in the Image Clothing Company. We're here for a reason as far as human beings on this earth. And there's a lot to this, man. I really love how grounded I am in this episode as well, because there's a lot of sides to me, and sometimes I'm quite a bit different than this, as far as just, the mood that I'm in. And you can just tell I'm very, very, very solid in what I'm saying on southern Utah, okay? And in the Image Clothing Company, and me as the founder, and that being where we almost certainly will be based. Okay, I'm not making some kind of anything for you to expect. It's what I mean. It's what I say all the time. Don't believe me. I'm not telling you exactly how it's going to be, because I want it to, and you better believe me and I'll make it happen. I don't know. None of that. That's what I mean. It's going to happen, though. Man, it's going to happen, though. It's Yikes. I don't say that stuff. I don't do that. I do not. I don't speak with certainty. I mean, I'm the kind of person when, I'm like walking to go do something, and I say, "Yeah, I'm gonna go do this." As long as nothing happens in between, like this 5 foot distance between me walking over to this table and picking the thing up off it. It's like I'm very careful a lot of the time to say stuff that's kind of that ridiculous. Truly, like unless anything happens, I'm bending down to tie my shoe right now. Like, and that's not even like a joking kind of like stretched explanation. Like I say stuff like that sometimes in my life. Yeah, truly, and I'm giving all this context to say I'm pretty well certain we're going to be based in southern Utah. Um, okay. I mean, we'll be breeding poodles. We'll be doing so much outside, and even just the ease of not having to have the poodle's hair have snow covered in it, and covered. See what I mean? I start to like not even be able to get my words out fully when stuff like hits me so hard. I mean, even that would be one thing that could be the only thing we would need for it to be beneficial enough for us to be based in southern Utah. Just the snow not getting caught in the hair of the poodles. Yeah, no joke. Them just coming into the house and just, or whatever building we go into, or our building. I mean, we will have a building, and this is what I'm saying with you'll just see, you know, and I will just see, because a lot of it is just as much of a surprise to me as it is to anybody else. Just what what happens and how this all unfolds up until now, how it's all unfolded, and where I am in this as of today's date, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. It's I didn't know it would be like this at the start, but there were certain things that I knew to say that it would be like at the start, and we're already quite a ways into doing a lot of those things that things just unfold, man. So you know I'll be down in St. George, again, unless anything happens, just for a couple weeks for sure. From just a few days from now, I'll be down there, and then we'll go from there, man. I mean, we'll always go from just now. We're always just doing things as we're doing them, and um you know yeah, I mean, I didn't even know I was going to be going down there for these 2 weeks until you know right around a couple days ago. I started to be like, well, shoot, I have an opportunity to go down there. um Maybe I should, well, I can, ride down and back, and you'll see, man. Yeah, and I'll see. I just want to express my gratitude. I know that God is grateful for me, and that's crazy. But that's one thing I can tell. We have fast and testimony meeting, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The first Sunday of each month is usually when it is, and we can just as members of the congregation, we can get up and on behind the pulpit and just give a testimony of whatever we do, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of just Jesus Christ, our God Himself, of the restored fullness of the truth within the Book of Mormon, and testimonies of things that I have a testimony of now that I didn't so much in other parts of my life. Modern day prophets, specifically through the keys of the restored priesthood and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm being so humbled by, that God is able to use me for, use me to use an example out of, to make an example out of, truly is what I'm saying. And this is a big one of those things, where, anyway, I bore my testimony on Sunday, just meaning, you get up and you just speak to the congregation of people that are in the pews there at church, of what and the truth, and your relationship with it. And I just got such a confirmation this Sunday, which was yesterday, and the day before then was when I was starting to. I think it was the day before then, at least, Saturday, maybe even Friday, but around these past few days, I was like, shoot, yeah, we'll head down to St. George, Utah, for at least a little while, because I knew that I'd be able to get down there and back, and then, yeah, it's going to be about a couple weeks, just right around 2 weeks that I'll be down there right now, in the next few days we'll go down. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just documenting. That's really a lot of what we do as in the Image Clothing Company, is just documentation, okay? A record-keeping people, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, saints of God in these latter days, in the later days leading up to the second coming of God. But saints, it's not like this self-proclaimed thing, like we're so good, but those of us that are trying to become saints, trying to become God's chosen people by doing all that we can to choose God over anything else that we could ever choose, So there's a lot that's happening right now, and there's a lot that's happening in the world, as in our man-made world, in our societies. And if you know, I mean, just look at the time period and what's going on across the earth, if you'd like to see what I mean by that. But there's a lot that's happening in the spirit, in God's progression toward where he's placing everything before he returns again. And there's a lot that's happening within the Image Clothing Company, and me personally, Evan Strong, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company right now in this specific time period. And again, date marked and time stamped. We do things as a record keeping people. Truly, we do. So golly. So I've said it, and I've made it very clear. Yeah, I mean, pretty well certainly, without me being the one saying that it's a certain thing, in the Image Clothing Company and Southern Utah, for life. But I don't know how, and I don't know many more details than really what I've said in this, yet. So that's fine. That's good. I love it. God keeps us on our toes, and then he surprises us. He loves us. And that's what I'm saying is I can tell that God's grateful for me when I don't even want to put the focus on being given things by God, but when I'm given confirmation by God, I can tell that he's grateful for where I am and what I'm doing at that time. So that's where I'm sitting right now, is in that, as I've discussed it within this case. So there you go. I love it. The state of Utah, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Utah. A lot of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is, the headquarters for the church, as the organization that it is, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is here in Utah. It's up in Salt Lake County, in Salt Lake City, Utah. And there's so much history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the state of Utah, and things that you can't discuss church history, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints history without discussing the state of Utah. You can't. There's certain things that happened, over back east, in New York and Missouri, Illinois, right? There's certain things that have happened, but to get us to Utah as the church that we are in speaking for now, at least right now, 2025, and then going forth, as far as I know, that's how it'll be. This is the headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is in this state. This is where I was placed by God. I was born in Utah. I'm Utah native. And there's so many reasons we, quote, live up Utah, unquote, under In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, shoot. And I love it. I love the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, even though I've had a rough ride with it. That's what's deepened my love for it, and my testimony of it being the actual fullness of the restored truth of God on the earth today. And that's something that, I didn't have. I mean, I'll word it like this, because this is the case, really, is I just didn't have quite the depth of understanding and personal deep-rooted conviction of that, until recently, until I got rebaptized, really, the second time around is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast where I discuss that, yeah, I mean, it's been a lot, there's been a lot that's happened. Like what I've been saying. I mean, I've worded it as, we've crossed a threshold within the past month, give or take, under In the Image Clothing Company, and we have it truly where my physical body is, just because that's what we do on the main side. It's all about the functionality of the human body, and I speak out of personal experience. Where we are with the amount of content and context and just building that we have behind us of what we are up until today's date as In the Image Clothing Company. There's a lot that, I mean, we really have no claim behind that, but we've crossed the threshold in many ways where we're really in a solid place now. We're moving forth. We've, laid a foundation that is always there now. We've crossed a threshold. We truly have, as In the Image Clothing Company. And then now me saying this, I would not be saying this. And again, being very clear, I don't know all of the reasons as to why, and I especially don't know exactly how, by any means. But saying that with almost all certainty, it's not even my words either, truly. I mean, it's like I can't not say this and still be obedient to God. We're going to be based in the south end of Utah, the relative southern part of the state of Utah, the United States of America, as In the Image Clothing Company. And, I mean, I love the outdoors, and you know this if you do. If not, yeah, I don't need to sit and talk about much more about it, but I mean, the opportunities down there in the state parks, the national parks, and the climate, the beauty visually for what we'll be doing through video. Man, I would not be talking about it like this if I didn't have the deep rooted, you know, conviction. It's been awesome, man. It's been amazing the past even few days. I've gone through a lot of amazing experiences, and that's what happens when we're leading up to something big, even if we don't know what it is. Exactly, or maybe at all, or maybe we have an idea and it ends up being pretty much that, or just like we thought, or maybe it's not even what we thought, but we knew something was coming. I don't know exactly, what to try to tell anybody, and myself included, of what to expect with certain things, but I have said a lot here that I've been given insights on by God. And it's the whole thing about, I could be sitting here just trying to preach something random to you that's not real, and so don't believe me. But I'm just saying things when I'm saying them, when I'm prompted by God. I'm just listening and doing all that I can to serve God, and as I draw nearer to Him, He, as He promises us, draws nearer to me, and He does. So don't believe me. Don't think that I'm just trying to put some hopes out there into the universe and maybe it'll happen because I'd love it too. Well, I'd love to be based in southern Utah, but what I'd love more than anything else is just to do the will of God, and it wasn't my choice. It's not like I started to think through it and I came up with that as an outcome. But I was really prompted by God after saying what I did, reading my shirt and having it sound like I said we're based in Moab, Utah in that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I got so convicted by God to just say what I've said in here. Okay, in this episode 176. Because I mean, this isn't even really what the title's about. Well, I mean, it is, But the way that I've been discussing it, I haven't been like, coming back to just saying the title as I do often or have up until now at least, like about, always given freely. But this is what God does, he gives us free foreshadowing of what's to come. As long as we're trying, to do his will. So anyway, Southern Utah, man. There you go. I mean, I've said what I've said in this. I'm not taking this back. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't say this as if, like, I mean, right? No matter what happens, I don't, yeah, I mean, there you go. I feel so home in the desert, so home in the warmth, in the heat, even. I love the heat. I like, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, yeah, it's warm down there in southern Utah. Yeah, in the warmest parts of the year, it's really warm down there. It is dry, true desert, and I'm at home in the desert. There you go, man. I mean, I'm solid, right now, the way I'm saying this. I'm not, you know, saying it out of some kind of just excitement. I just want to make it so clear. I'd like anybody who's listening to this to really, really listen to this in the way that I'm saying it. I'm being pretty careful about what I'm saying, right? So just know that I know what I know, okay? For the sake of a testimony of God, because I don't know how it could happen or will happen, but I know what God gives me in the times that God gives me things, and he gives us little pieces of information at a time that stack up over time, okay? Yikes. Line upon line, precept upon precept is what we talk about, how we gain understanding and how we're given things by God, within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's a common phrasing. Within the founding of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that's how it came to be, just little bits of it at a time. Well, even in current modern day, God is always revealing things. God is always now. He's eternal. He's ever present. And yeah, even as of now, we're given things, just the amount that we need to be given in the time by God, and there you go. Is kind of how he says it, like, hold on for more to come, because I've got more for you. It's just not time yet, because it's not our timing, it's God's timing. It's God's timing. He's outside of time. He just does things in certain times for us, because we're governed by time and money and food, and certain needs as human beings. And so, yeah. So there you go, man. I love hiking. I love the nature, man. And the dogs, I mean, that's where they're at home as well. It's a good place. Yeah. Okay. Southern Utah, man. I'm saying it. The 3rd of November, 2025 is today's date. So whatever you see happening, any date after today's, that lines up or doesn't, right? I mean, don't believe me, but I'm saying this right now. I just did. Okay. Uh-huh. And clearly explained, it's because God is prompting me to. We get personal revelation. I'm not just like some prophet above somebody else. I mean, we all have equal personal revelation. Even the prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, currently Prophet President Dallin H. Oaks is who it is. I mean, he just, became the prophet because the prophet before him died, just about 3 weeks ago, give or take. Around a month ago, maybe from today's date. So we can, though, be revealed things personally, by God. He the prophet of the church, he just has, things given to him by God to govern over the whole church as a whole, but he gets his own personal revelation, just as I do, and him and her, meaning anybody, we all have an equal line of communication to God for our own lives. So I'm not claiming some kind of like, higher positioning than anybody else at all. I'm not, I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to prophesy, but, right? But God will speak prophecies through anybody that he uses to do that with as well, right? We just have to see things as they are because, yeah. Yeah, man. Because, yeah. Okay? Because God does what he does regardless of what we think could happen or regardless of who we think could do it. Whether I think I'm able to be someone who could even speak on things to come before they do or not, or if anyone thinks that I could or not, don't believe me. I don't even need to believe anything either. I don't believe anything, I say that. I mean it. There's only truth, and so, whatever happens after this, it's just, what happens after this? That's what I mean. I don't even know all of why but I don't want to finish saying that like that, because what I was going to say is I don't even know all of why I'm even discussing Southern Utah, but even though it doesn't make all that much sense to me right now, as of, just understanding it to the fullness of how that could even happen, I know the reason why I'm saying this, and I mean, with almost entire certainty, without making a promise out of my own doing, will be based in Southern Utah for life. I mean, in the Image Clothing Company, dude. I'm being very careful with this, the way I'm saying it, and then whatever outcome and however it looks, we'll be able to look back on this and the way that I said this, where you can tell it just is what it is, dude. You know, and we'll know more of why I said it at all, as of date marking it today, the 3rd of November, 2025, and why I approached saying it this way, and why I spent this much of this episode discussing it like this. Okay, I mean, this is the whole thing about God and how he's outside of time, is he'll use time and timings to manifest himself. I mean, it's like it says in the Book of Mormon, all things denote that there is a God. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, "You Don't Need to Believe in God," and I mean it. God is there whether anyone wants to believe in him. You can choose not to. It's your choice that God gave you. This is what I mean, And so a lot of what God does is have imperfect human beings, which is all of us, say things that we could sound crazy for saying, but that he's in charge of, to show that there's no way, well, in this case, me speaking personally, that I, Evan Strong, could just tell you how something's going to happen and have it just happen that way, certainly, because I said so. No, I couldn't do that. I could not. I'm not in charge. Nobody is, besides God, and that's the point. You can tell I'm honestly, like, just kind of also questioning exactly what's to come, just as anybody else does or could, as they hear me saying this, right? And so that's where the testimony of this is coming from God comes from. And regardless of how that ends up looking or manifesting itself, I don't mean that it's going to look exactly like this or that in a way that I could explain it, because it's a testimony for myself as well. It's God strengthening my own testimony in him, as well as me speaking words that can strengthen others' testimony of him and in him through me just being another human being like anyone else, and being able to be used in truly miraculous ways as a vessel. Which, those three words, that's a title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? One of our episodes, that's its title as well, where God will work through us if we're willing, in ways that are obvious that we didn't do it, for his glory. Because that's the whole point of all things working together for the good of those that serve God. The reason why things work out good for us is because we are serving God. And it points people to him and his glory. Because there's no way that we could do certain things that we do if it wasn't God actually just acting through us. And it's just about our level of willingness in allowing that to be the case, And I mean, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Willingness. And just even to see, from that episode's date up until me saying this right now on today's date, the change that's happened on, what I was discussing being willing about in that episode. I mean, that was just months ago as of today's date back, So this is what I mean. This is the whole thing about God uses timing, something he's outside of, to manifest himself to us because we're governed by it. And similar things, with timing, like money, I have no money, literally none. A few coins in the car that is not mine, that I currently have been, given access to use to get places in do you see what I mean? I don't know how I'd, do anything that I couldn't do, but I do know how it can happen, and I know it has, because God is perfect. Oh, shoot. I mean, it's so real, dude. I don't even care if you believe a single thing that I'm saying, and that's the whole point, is you don't have to, but then once it happens, it's like, well, now what are you going to do? Choose not to believe it. Well, it's happened. You can't deny things that are there. That's the whole point of a testimony of truth, is truth is tangible. It's something you can't possibly deny, because it exists. There's only truth, and that's how there is anything. Right? So this is what I mean. I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's not about me. It's not. I mean, I said that in this episode. That's one of the things I was discussing in here. Is we couldn't even take credit for, certain things that I was saying that's just not ours. Yeah, right. It's not about me, dude. I couldn't even possibly take credit for things that I didn't do. And so, and a lot of that is me. Maybe I'm the physical. Anyway, you'll just see. I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong, in this for life. So just stick around, bro. Stick around and see what happens. And there you go. I'm ready to dive into church history, though. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm ready to really do a lot of beautiful things. I mean, we're not only centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, but we are rooted and centered and built and founded upon, in all legitimacy. I mean this. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You got a problem with that, that's fine. I used to say often, if you've got a problem with us, stick around, and that's what God says to us. If you've got a problem with me, good, stick around. That's a lot of what I said, to the congregation on Sunday, is it's good to have a problem with God, because that draws us closer to him, as long as we direct our problems with him to him, and so Anyway, I mean, this gets deep, bro, and I'm prepared for if, potentially hundreds of thousands of episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast throughout my lifetime, right? I mean, I'm not here just to kind of like do this for a little bit of time, some startup company or, no, I mean, I'm in this for life, regardless if I never made a penny at all, any amount of money. There's a bigger reason to doing this, but we'll make money with it as well. I want to make it clear, dude, what we're really doing, because I need to. God needs me to, and there you go. I mean, I have in ways. I mean, I've said most all of this, yeah, I have said most. I have right before now, but documented. I have, but I'll say what I say where I do, and that's how it'll always be, man. Yeah. Okay. Shoot. Shoot in an amazing way. I mean, just we serve a God who's perfect. And he's perfect in the ways that he decides what perfection is. So there you go. Thank you.